Lamar Hurd joins us on the phone. Lamar, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
You know, we're doing well, and I know you're over doing the Rip City Relays with Kevin and the crew, and there was a picture of a tricycle race earlier on. Please tell me you beat Kevin in the tricycle race.
You know what, Jordan? Not only did I beat him, but I heard him say that it was by a whisker. It was actually more by like a full body length. All right, I got off to a slow start, but I picked it up down the stretch. But it was a lot of fun, man.
Well, that's the way to hold it down for the millennials, Lamar. I appreciate that. So many people have seen you calling college basketball games. You'll now be obviously working the NBA. Can you tell us from your experience and what you've witnessed, what's going to be one of the primary differences between the college and the pro game?
Well, Jordan and Michael, I think it's the same differences that basketball players see at every level. I mean, go back to when, you're in high school and people ask, well, what's the biggest difference in the college game from high school? And it's the speed of the game. The game just moves so much faster. Players are so much better. Shot clock is shorter. And so as an analyst doing what I'm going to be doing, I may not have as much time to operate within certain segments of the game. But at the same time, it's like being a player. You find your time. You pick and choose different spots where you add on your commentary. So I know, there'll be a bit of an adjustment period there, but I'm excited. I'm happy to learn the things that I need to learn in order to provide the type of analysis that I need to provide for Blazers fans.
Lamar, the NBA is the best league in the world and they're the best players in the world. And I know NU is still a basketball player and at some level a basketball fan. What excites you the most about sitting in a position now to analyze basketball games for a full season, night in, night out?
Well, first of all, you're right, Michael. I mean, it's definitely the best basketball, and one of the biggest changes that I'm going to experience because of that is that now I'll spend a lot of time analyzing what actually happened, opposed to maybe what should happen. When you do a lot of college games, you're dealing with some guys that maybe can't dribble the ball with their left hand, are strong with their right hand, maybe don't shoot the ball well, don't defend. Whatever the case is, there's all these deficiencies, and rightfully so. And so there's certain plays that cannot be made at the collegiate level that can be made at the college level. So when you do, in the NBA level. So when you're doing college games, you spend, quite a bit of time explaining what maybe should have been done a little different in that situation. And you'll have some of that in the NBA, but for the most part, you get to spend a lot of your time just giving insight to the fans as to, okay, here's the obvious of what just happened in that play, but I'm going to break it down a little bit further so you can see the game that happened within the game. So I'm very excited about that standpoint of it.
Lamar, we're roughly the same age. We grew up big fans of the NBA. As we've grown up and watched this league evolve, what do you think has been one of the biggest changes as far as play style goes in the NBA?
I think the perimeter play. Jordan, back when we were in college, you started seeing the NBA draft go a different direction where now guys who were big guys that played down low, they weren't as sought after as what became the new terminology, stretch four. All of a sudden, if you're a 6'8", 6'9" guy and you can shoot threes, you started becoming more valuable for potential reasons, more so than a guy that was maybe already dominating in the paint. So, now it's just so perimeter oriented, and with, the standard that Golden State has set on the offensive end, you got a lot of people trying to play that kind of game where you spread the court, use a skill set, shoot threes. So that's been one of the biggest differences. But it's exciting to me. I like seeing perimeter play. I like seeing big guys that have skill sets out there on a perimeter and can pass and can shoot. And it's all exciting to me. And that's how the game goes. At some point, they'll probably go back to playing back in the post. There's ebbs and flows with it, and I'm just glad I get to be a part of it.
Lamar, you mentioned we were in the Pac-10 at the same time, and I oftentimes like to brag. It was one of the heydays of the Pac-10. You see many of the studs back then still playing in the league today and contributing. Yeah. I want to ask you, who was the toughest guy to defend in the conference back when you played, other than myself, of course?
Other than you, and you know what, a quick side note, Coach Holton had a player, Pooh Jeter, who was a good guard. He could have played at any Pac-10 school back then. But, Jordan, aside from yourself, you had a teammate in Luke Ridnour who was very good. He was tough to play because of that high pick and roll that your dad implemented. It was just tough to defend. You didn't know which way to force him off the screen. And so for the longest point, for the first 2 or 3 years of my collegiate career, I would say Luke Ridnour was the toughest guy to defend. And then all of a sudden, here comes this kid out of Washington who his first few years, he was known as a slasher and a guy that got most of his points in the paint. But now he's stepping out and shooting threes as well. And I'm talking about Brandon Roy. By the time I became a senior, Brandon became the toughest person to defend because, you guys know this. Whenever we're watching games and you see a taller player go up against a shorter player, the first thing somebody might say is, oh, he has a mismatch. Well, that's not always the case because the taller guy might not know how to post up. He might not know how to finish and make you pay. But Brandon was one of those guys that was bigger than you. He caused a mismatch problem all the time, and he knew how to finish. So, I was 6'4", maybe 180 pounds on a good day after I ate a couple sandwiches. Brandon over here is 215 or whatever he is, and I couldn't deal with him in the post. We had to send double teams at times, and then he started stepping out shooting threes, and that's when he became a lottery pick and had the career that we saw him have with Portland. So Luke Ridnour, Brandon Roy, and Jordan, you're up in the mix somewhere in there.
Honestly, to defend me, all you had to do was just sit on our bench because that's where I spent most of my time, especially the first couple of years, or just send me to the free throw line. But no, I always tell people, for me, it was Salim Stoudemire at Arizona because some players
you know what? He's right there too.
Right? I mean, some guys you can give a little bit of space to. You couldn't give them any breathing room at all, Michael.
Well, and you know what else too, Jordan? Similar to like Steph Curry, Salim shoots shots when he's not even like facing the basket. His feet,
Yes.
His feet would be facing out of bounds, and he will just pull up, and 50% of the time it's going in. And so he was a tough one, too.
Yeah, you guys are talking about guys that score the ball a lot of different ways. Lamar, you made a comment earlier that I kind of want to circle back to. The game is certainly moved toward the transition and having perimeter skills, whether you're a guard or a big, pick and pop and being a point forward and that type of thing. But it is at some point going to swing back. And I thought in the NBA Finals it swung back, and I thought that had a lot to do with why the Cleveland Cavaliers were able to win. My question to you, Lamar, is if we look forward to that transition back to the post, do you think it might involve more multi-position players with post skills than traditional bigs?
I do think so. I do think so because I think the thing that's in now is the multi-positional players. Here's the thing you always hear is you ask a coach, hey, coach, what position does that guy play? And Coach loves saying, oh, he doesn't have a position. He's a basketball player. So now the thing is not pigeonholing certain guys and allowing people to use their skills to play in whatever position they can play. A lot of coaches now want to attack mismatches. So I think we'll continue to see a lot of multi-positional players. But, Michael, I agree with you. I do think in the finals, Cleveland beat up on Golden State. They got physical with them. At times the games were called like the games used to be called back in the 90s when you can grab guys a little bit and make it a tougher game. So, hey, we never know which direction this whole thing is going, but that's why you got to be flexible. As a player, you got to be able to adapt, and as a coach, you have to be able to make adjustments.
Lamar, what are you most excited to see with this year's Blazers team?
Well, I'm a guard at heart, and so there's no way that I can accept the job that I accepted without being excited about seeing guys like CJ and Dame operate on a nightly basis. I really do believe, and I said this even before taking the job, so this isn't like a homer thing here, but I do believe they're one of the top backcourts in the NBA, no question. And I think on certain nights they challenge for the best backcourt in the NBA. The thing I love about Terry Stotts' system is really similar to Golden State's, with a lot of the flare screens, a lot of the on balls, a lot of the handoffs, where he gives those guys freedom. So I'm just looking forward to seeing CJ coming into the year, knowing already his contract is taken care of. He's the man. He's the sidekick along with Dame. I expect those guys to be playing with an all-time high level of confidence. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And then looking forward to seeing how some of these new pieces fit into the puzzle. I mean, it's going to be interesting. You guys know from playing and coaching on certain teams, when you have a competitive atmosphere like the Blazers will have this year, possibly one of their deepest teams they've ever had, it's a challenge at times, and that's not a bad thing, but it's a challenge. Guys have to continue to be selfless, and you guys will understand coming into practice, coming into training camp, nothing is really guaranteed. I mean, outside of those first two guard spots, I don't think anybody really knows exactly what the lineup is going to look like on a nightly basis. So I'm excited to see the guards, and I'm excited to see how the new pieces mesh with what was already a really good core.
Lamar, I'm going to date myself a little bit with this next question. Dame and CJ, I just think there's a uniqueness factor to them in that they both can be primary ball handlers. Last year, CJ started at the 2 and was also the backup 1. And I always think about Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars when I watch Dame and CJ. Mm-hmm. But when you have 2 guys that can trigger your offense like that, how big an asset is that?
Well, Coach, being a guard yourself, guards, they manage the game. When you have 2 guys that can do some of the things that, like, they do stuff you can't coach. You can give the ball to CJ and just say, go get me a bucket, and he'll get you a bucket. One-on-one stuff. So not only is the stuff that is tough to coach, it's tough to game plan again. And so that's what I'm saying. Coming into this year, I'm excited to see how creative those guys will continue to get. The same way we saw a guy like Steph Curry get better last season than he was 2 seasons ago. I want to put it past these guys, Dame and CJ, to have that same kind of jump, just because of their ability, the fact that they cheer for one another. How rare is that you have 2 guys like that truly root for one another and aren't trying to always outdo the other guy to get his minutes or anything. They know how to compete in a healthy manner. So it is extremely valuable, and how fortunate are the Blazers to have those 2 guys as the cornerstones of the franchise.
Lamar, you touched on chemistry, and you've played on a lot of teams, and the media will oftentimes throw the term chemistry out there quite a bit, but speak to just how valuable it is to get along with everybody on a basketball team, because there's not that many personalities to really dissipate any type of bad chemistry guys there. You really do need everybody in that locker room to enjoy one another.
Man, it's extremely valuable. We just did a question and answer session here on the Rip City Relay, and I think we had a 4th grader that asked that same question. It was a great question, and I believe, quite frankly, if the team did not have the chemistry they had this past season, they're not making the playoffs. It's just not happening. There are some teams that have such an overwhelming level of talent that sometimes you can get away with not having chemistry. The Blazers do have now added talent. So they're the kind of team that even if they weren't together on the chemistry level, they could still probably make some things happen. But the fact that you added talent to the group you had last year, and you still have the same chemistry. You see these guys in Southern California taking their trips. You see them paintballing. You see them in swimming pools together. Like, they really like each other. It's not a front to have that. Now you start having something special, and now you have a team that, hey, maybe it's not a 5th seed. Now, hey, maybe we go for one of those top 3 seeds in the West. And it's not unfathomable because of that skill set and the chemistry they have.
You talk about the big jump this team made last year, and a lot of that was based upon preseason predictions from the national media. This year, expectations are a little bit higher. What would you say to fans that are maybe expecting a similar type of transition with the record? And what I mean by that is, a 15-16 win margin. It's harder to get that when you've already got 44-plus wins for the most part. But what do you think are some reasonable expectations for this team next year?
I always say it's tough really to put expectations out before you see the product. We've been working in TV for a long time now, and every season, we're supposed to do a preseason poll and do all these things. And, what happens every year, guys? By the end of the year, your polls are totally lopsided. What you thought was going to happen isn't the case because you made these judgments before you got to see the product. And so, in a general sense, I think it's completely fair to expect the team to make the playoffs again. But if you're one of the fans that think, okay, now we have to get a 1 seed or a 2 seed in order to validate ourselves, I don't think that's necessarily the case. Do I think it's out of the realm of possibility? No. But I don't think that if the team doesn't get to that level, that it was not a successful season. I can't wait to see the team at training camp next week so that I can get a chance to see how do some of these new pieces fit in. Is the acquisition of Evan Turner one that can maybe get the team 4 more wins here or there? Is sliding Al Farouk to the 4, if that's indeed what the team is going to do, for sure. How does that look? And what kind of mismatches can that present for the opposition? And so once I get to see some of that stuff, I have a better feel on kind of what I think this year is going to look like. But I think for sure we got another playoff team on our hands. And at the very least, it's going to be an exciting brand of basketball.
Lamar, thank you so much. We'll let you get off to dinner with Kevin and the rest of the crew. Appreciate you joining us. Looking forward to working with you this season.
My pleasure. Looking forward to it, guys.